I'm taking him to the game instead of you. He'll enjoy it more, she said about her coworker. I'd bought those courtside tickets for our anniversary. I didn't say anything, just waited until she left for the game. Packed my things while she was gone and moved out. She came home to an empty apartment and a note. He can have the seats. And you? I, 31, male, had been with Lauren, 29, for 2 years. We lived together in a small apartment in downtown, shared bills, shared a life. 3 days before our anniversary, she told me she was taking Brandon, her coworker, to the basketball game instead of me. The courtside tickets I'd bought cost $800. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, nodded, and started planning my exit. That Friday night, while she sat courtside cheering next to Brandon, I packed every single thing I owned. I left my key on the counter with a note that said, "He can have the seats. And you?" She came home 4 hours later to an empty apartment and 15 missed calls she never answered in time. Her first text said, "This is insane. It was just a game." I replied once, "And this is just a breakup." Then I blocked her number. That was 3 weeks ago. Now she's scrambling to cover rent she can't afford alone, and Brandon stopped replying to her text the day after the game. Turns out, he had a girlfriend the whole time. Lauren and I started dating in the spring of 2022. She worked in marketing at a tech startup. I worked as a project manager for a construction firm. We met through a mutual friend at a rooftop party, hit it off over cheap wine and city lights. By month 6, we moved in together. It felt natural, easy. She had this laugh that could disarm anyone, this energy that made boring weekends feel like small adventures. But somewhere around the 1-year mark, things shifted. She started working longer hours, more happy hours with the team, more nights where she came home late smelling like craft beer and someone else's cologne. I didn't question it. I trusted her. I thought I was being supportive. Our second anniversary was coming up in late October. I wanted to do something big, something memorable. Lauren loved basketball. She'd grown up watching the local team with her dad. She knew every player's stats, every coach's strategy. I didn't care about sports, but I cared about her. So I spent 2 months saving up, tracking ticket drops, refreshing StubHub at 3 a.m. until I finally scored 2 courtside seats for a Friday night game. The tickets cost $847.50 after fees. I didn't blink. I printed them out, put them in a small gift box with a handwritten card that said, 2 years down. Courtside to celebrate. I was proud of myself. I thought she'd cry. I thought she'd kiss me and tell me I was the best. Instead, 3 days before the game, she told me she was taking Brandon. It happened on a Tuesday. I was making dinner, chopping onions for pasta, when she walked in from work. She dropped her bag on the couch and said, "So I'm taking Brandon to the game on Friday." Just like that. Casual. Like she was telling me she'd picked up milk. I stopped chopping. I turned around. I said, "What game?" She looked at me like I was slow. "The basketball game. The one you got tickets for." I felt my chest tighten. I said, "Those are for us. For our anniversary." She shrugged. She actually shrugged. "I know, but Brandon loves basketball. Like, really loves it. You don't even watch the games with me. You just sit there on your phone. He'll actually enjoy it." I stood there holding the knife, staring at her. I wanted to yell. I wanted to ask her if she'd lost her mind. Instead, I said, "Okay." She blinked. "Okay." I nodded. "Yeah, okay." She smiled, relieved. "Thanks, babe. I knew you'd understand." Then she walked to the bedroom to change. I went back to chopping onions. But my hands were shaking. Brandon showed up in conversations about 4 months before the ticket incident. At first, it was harmless. Brandon had this hilarious idea for the campaign. Brandon brought donuts for the team today. I didn't think much of it. Workplaces have dynamics. People bond. But then Brandon started appearing in weekend plans. The team's going out for drinks. Brandon is organizing it. Then in photos, Lauren posted a group shot from a company bowling night. Brandon was standing next to her, arm around her shoulder, both of them mid-laugh. I commented, "Cute. Wish I could have made it." She hearted the comment. Didn't reply. The next week, she came home late on a Wednesday. I asked where she'd been. She said, "We had a project deadline. Brandon and I stayed late to finish the deck." I said, "You didn't text." She said, "It was last minute. You know how it is." I didn't know. I work long hours too. But something in her tone felt off. Defensive. Like I'd accused her of something. I let it go. Then came the birthday dinner. Her birthday was in early October. I made reservations at this Italian place she loved, the one with the candlelit tables and the piano player. I told her 2 weeks in advance. She said she'd be there. The night of, I sat alone at the table for 40 minutes. She finally showed up, flushed, apologizing. Work thing ran late. Brandon needed help with a pitch. I said, "You couldn't text?" She said, "I'm here now, aren't I?" Dinner was tense. She checked her phone 3 times. I paid the bill in silence. On the walk home, she said, "You're mad." I said, "I'm tired." She said, "You're always tired." I didn't respond. We went to bed on opposite sides of the mattress. So when she told me she was taking Brandon to the game, it wasn't a surprise. It was a confirmation. A pattern I'd been ignoring had just shown itself in full color. And I realized something sitting there in the kitchen with onions burning my eyes. I wasn't angry. I was done. Done being second choice. Done being the guy who plans and pays and waits. Done being the background character in my own relationship. I finished making dinner. We ate in silence. She didn't notice. That night, after she went to sleep, I started Googling moving companies. I texted my buddy Kyle. "Can I crash at your place for a few days?" He replied in 2 minutes. Always. "What happened?" I said, "I'll tell you Friday." The next 2 days were a performance. I acted normal. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings. I asked about her day. I even smiled when she talked about the game. "Brandon is so hyped," she said Wednesday night. "He's never had courtside seats before." I said, "That's great." She looked at me, surprised. "You're really okay with this?" I nodded. "Yeah, I want you to have fun." She hugged me. "You're the best." I hugged her back and thought, "You have no idea what's coming." Thursday, I started packing. Small things first. Clothes from the closet. Toiletries from the bathroom. I worked in the mornings while she was at the office. I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. I left her stuff exactly where it was. I even left the dishes I'd bought, the coffee maker, the couch we'd split. I only took what I came with. By Thursday night, I had 3 suitcases and 2 boxes ready to go. I hid them in the bedroom closet. Friday morning, she woke up excited. She was wearing the jersey I'd bought her last Christmas. She kissed me on the cheek. "Wish me luck," she said. I said, "Have a great time." She left at 5 p.m. The game started at 7. I waited 10 minutes. Then I called Kyle. He pulled up in his truck at 5:30. We loaded everything in 2 trips. The apartment looked bigger with my stuff gone. Emptier. I stood in the living room for a minute, looking at the space where my life used to be. Then I walked to the kitchen counter. I took out a piece of paper and wrote the note. It was short. 8 words. "He can have the seats. And you." I left my key next to it. Then I locked the door from the inside and pulled it shut behind me. Kyle drove me to his place in silence. When we got there, he handed me a beer and said, "You good?" I said, "I will be." Update 1. Lauren came home at 11:07 p.m. I know the exact time because that's when the call started. My phone was on silent, but I watched it light up on Kyle's coffee table. 1 call, 2, 5, 10, 15. Then the texts started rolling in. "Where are you? This isn't funny. Call me back. Are you serious right now? We need to talk." I didn't respond. Around midnight, Kyle said, "You gonna answer?" I shook my head. He said, "Good. Let her sit with it." At 12:14 a.m., she called from a different number. I didn't recognize it. I picked up. Her voice was frantic, shaking. "Where the hell are you? Why is all your stuff gone? Did you really just leave?" I said I did. She said, "Over basketball tickets? Are you kidding me?" I said, "It's not about the tickets." She said, "Then what is it about?" I said, "You chose Brandon over me. For our anniversary. You didn't even hesitate." There was silence. Then, "It was just a game." I said, "And this is just a breakup." I hung up. She called back immediately. I declined. She called again. Declined. She sent a voicemail. I deleted it without listening. The next morning, I woke up to 37 texts. Most were from Lauren. Some were from her friends. Her best friend Sophie sent, "Lauren's a mess. She's crying. You need to call her." I didn't reply. Another friend, Claire, sent, "This is extreme. You guys can work this out." I blocked her. Lauren's texts were a mix of panic and blame. "I didn't think you'd actually leave. You're overreacting. I'm sorry, okay? I made a mistake. Can we please just talk?" Then, around noon, the tone shifted. "You know what? This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. I gave you 2 years, and this is how you repay me?" Brandon and I didn't even do anything. We're just friends. I read every message. I didn't respond to a single one. Kyle watched me scroll through them. He said, "She's spiraling." I said, "Good." By Saturday night, the story had spread. Mutual friends started reaching out. My buddy Eric texted, "Heard you moved out. You okay, man?" I replied, "Yeah. Long time coming." He said, "Lauren's telling people you flipped out over nothing." I said, "Let her talk." He sent a screenshot. It was from Lauren's Instagram story. A photo of the courtside seats with the caption, "Best night ever. Thanks for understanding, babe." The post was from Friday night. She'd tagged Brandon. I stared at the screen. Kyle said, "She really posted that?" I nodded. He said, "She's bold. I'll give her that." I said, "She's stupid." Then I opened my messages and replied to Lauren for the second and final time. "Saw your post. Glad you had fun. Don't contact me again." I blocked her number. Then I blocked her on every platform. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, LinkedIn, all of it. She was gone. Digitally erased. It felt like taking out the trash. Update 2. By Monday, the fallout had reached Lauren's workplace. Brandon, apparently, had a girlfriend. Her name was Emily. And Emily was not happy. I didn't find out through Lauren. I found out through Eric, who heard it from his girlfriend, who worked in the same building. Apparently, Emily showed up at the office that Monday morning, walked straight to Brandon's desk, and confronted him in front of the entire marketing floor. "Courtside seats with another girl?" she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "And you didn't think I'd find out?" Brandon tried to calm her down. "It was just a work thing," he said. "Her boyfriend bought the tickets." Emily said, "Her ex-boyfriend." The office went silent. Lauren, sitting 3 desks away, turned bright red. Emily turned to her. "You knew he had a girlfriend, didn't you?" Lauren stammered. "I didn't. We're just co-workers." Emily cut her off. "Save it. You can have him." Then she walked out. Brandon followed her. He didn't come back to the office for the rest of the day. Lauren sat at her desk, staring at her screen, while everyone around her whispered. Eric's girlfriend sent me the full breakdown over text. I read it sitting in Kyle's living room, drinking coffee, feeling lighter than I had in months. Kyle read it over my shoulder. He said, "Karma works fast." I said, "Sometimes." That afternoon, Lauren texted me from a new number. I didn't have her blocked yet. The message said, "I know you probably heard what happened at work. It's not what you think. Brandon and I really are just friends. Emily's crazy." I didn't respond. I just blocked the new number and went back to my coffee. By Tuesday, more people started reaching out. Friends who'd been on Lauren's side initially started asking questions. "Did she really ditch you on your anniversary? She took another guy to a game you paid for? That's cold, man." I didn't engage. I didn't defend myself or trash her. I just said, we weren't a good fit. Most people got it. A few didn't. Lauren's best friend Sophie sent me a long message on Wednesday. "You didn't even give her a chance to explain. You just left. That's cruel." I replied. She had 2 years to not choose someone else. She failed. Sophie didn't respond. By Thursday, Lauren had apparently tried to get Brandon to pay her half of the rent. He told her no. He told her the tickets were her idea, not his, and he wasn't responsible for her relationship drama. She posted a vague story on Instagram. When you realize who people really are, it hurts. I didn't see it. Kyle showed me. He said, "She's trying to play the victim." I said, "Let her." That weekend, I got a call from Lauren's mom. I didn't expect that. Her mom had always liked me. She called on Saturday morning. I answered. She said, "I heard what happened." Lauren told me her version. "I wanted to hear yours." I told her. All of it. The tickets. Brandon. The pattern. The post. The exit. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I'm sorry she did that to you. You deserved better." I said, "Thank you." She said, "For what it's worth, I think you made the right call." We talked for 20 more minutes. She told me Lauren had been calling her crying every night, saying I abandoned her. Her mom didn't buy it. She made her choice, she said. Now she has to live with it. Update 3. 2 weeks after I moved out, Lauren started a smear campaign. She couldn't control the narrative, so she tried to rewrite it. She posted on Facebook, "Sometimes people show you who they really are when things get hard." I'm grateful for the lesson. The comments section filled up with supportive messages from people who didn't know the full story. "You deserve better, girl." His loss. Onward and upward. I didn't comment. I didn't care. But then she took it further. She told people I'd been controlling. that I'd isolated her from her friends, that I'd made her feel guilty for having male coworkers. None of it was true. I had screenshots to prove it. Messages where she'd canceled plans with me to hang out with Brandon. Messages where she'd told me I was overreacting when I asked to meet her coworkers. Messages where she'd called me the best and so understanding. I didn't post them. I didn't need to. Because the people who mattered already knew the truth. Eric and a few other mutual friends started quietly defending me. Not publicly, but in private group chats. They shared the real story. The tickets. The post. The timing. Slowly, people started unfollowing Lauren. Her Instagram story views dropped. Her post got fewer likes. She noticed. She texted me from yet another new number. "You're turning people against me." I replied for the third and final time. "I didn't say a word. You did this to yourself." Then I blocked the number and changed my phone settings to reject calls from unknown contacts. I was done. Completely done. Meanwhile, Lauren's financial situation was deteriorating. The apartment we'd shared cost $1,800 a month. We'd split it evenly. Now she was on the hook for the full amount. She tried to find a roommate. No one wanted to live with her. She tried to break the lease. The landlord said she owed 2 months' rent as a penalty. She couldn't afford it. By the end of the month, she'd moved out. She posted a vague story about new beginnings with a photo of moving boxes. I didn't feel bad. I felt nothing. Kyle said, "You think she learned anything?" I said, "Probably not." He said, "You think she regrets it?" I said, "I don't care." And I didn't. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about Lauren. I wasn't wondering where she was or who she was with. I wasn't checking her social media or waiting for an apology. I was just living. I started going to the gym again. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected. I even went on a date. It didn't go anywhere, but it felt good to put myself out there. I realized how small my world had become with Lauren, how much I'd shrunk myself to fit into her plans, her schedule, her priorities. Moving out wasn't just about the tickets. It was about reclaiming my life. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt like I had won. A month after I moved out, Lauren's life had completely unraveled. I didn't hear this from her. I heard it from Sophie, who'd finally seen through Lauren's victim act. Sophie texted me out of nowhere. "I owe you an apology." I didn't know the whole story. "Lauren's been lying to everyone." I said, "What changed?" She said, "I saw her phone. She had messages with Brandon from before the game. She'd been planning to take him for weeks. She lied to you. She lied to me. She lied to everyone." I didn't respond. Sophie kept going. "She's broke. She had to move back in with her parents. She got written up at work for the Emily situation. Brandon transferred to a different department to avoid her. She's a mess." I said, "That's unfortunate." Sophie said, "You're not even a little satisfied?" I said, "No. I'm just relieved I'm not there anymore." Lauren tried one last time to reach me. She showed up at Kyle's apartment 3 weeks later. I was out, but Kyle told me about it. She knocked on the door at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Kyle opened it. She said, "Is he here?" Kyle said, "No." She said, "Can you give him a message?" Kyle said, "I can, but he won't care." She started crying. "Please, I just need to talk to him. I made a mistake. I know I did. I just want to apologize." Kyle said, "You had 2 years to not make that mistake. You don't get to apologize now." She stood there for a minute, crying on his doorstep. Then she left. Kyle texted me, "Your ex just showed up." I sent her away. "You good?" I replied, "Yeah, thanks." He said, "She looked rough." I said, "Not my problem anymore." By the end of November, Lauren had deleted most of her social media. No more posts. No more stories. Just silence. I heard through the grapevine that she'd quit her job. Couldn't handle the whispers, the stares, the fact that everyone knew what she'd done. She moved to a different city. Started over. I didn't follow her. I didn't check on her. I didn't care. Her collapse wasn't my victory. It was just the natural consequence of her choices. She chose Brandon over me. She chose courtside seats over our relationship. She chose to post about it like it was something to celebrate. And she lost everything because of it. Not because I destroyed her. Because she destroyed herself. 3 months after I moved out, I took a trip. I'd been saving the money I used to spend on rent, on dinners, on anniversaries Lauren never appreciated. I booked a flight to Colorado. Spent a week snowboarding in the mountains with Kyle and a few other friends. No drama. No lies. Just clean air, cold snow, and people who showed up when they said they would. On the last night of the trip, We sat around a fire outside the cabin. Kyle said, "You seem different." I said, "Different how?" He said, "Lighter. Like you're actually here." I thought about it. He was right. For 2 years, I'd been living in Lauren's shadow, accommodating her schedule, funding her happiness, waiting for her to choose me. And she never did. The tickets were just the final proof of a pattern I'd ignored for too long. I don't regret buying those courtside seats. I regret buying them for someone who didn't value the gesture. I regret staying as long as I did. But I don't regret leaving. Walking away from that apartment, from that relationship, from that version of myself that bent and twisted to fit someone else's priorities, was the best decision I ever made. Lauren texted me one last time in late December, from a new number I didn't recognize. The message said, "I know you won't respond, but I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're doing okay." I read it. I didn't reply. I just deleted the message and went back to my life. The life where I wasn't second choice, where I wasn't funding someone else's fun while being left behind, where I wasn't the guy waiting at home while his girlfriend sat courtside with another man. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry, if I hate her. I don't. I just don't think about her anymore. She's a chapter that's closed. A lesson learned. A reminder that love isn't enough if respect isn't part of the deal. Those courtside seats cost me $847.50. But leaving cost me nothing. And gaining my life back? That was priceless. Some people never learn to value what they have until it's gone. Lauren learned too late. And I learned just in time. I'm dating someone new now. Her name is Rachel. She's a teacher. She's kind. She shows up. Last week, I told her the story. About the tickets. About Lauren. About Brandon. She listened quietly. Then she said, "She really chose courtside seats over you?" I nodded. Rachel said, "Her loss." And she meant it. Not in a performative way. Not in a way that felt like she was trying to score points. Just in a way that felt true. That's the difference. That's what I was missing with Lauren. The feeling of being chosen. Not out of obligation. Not out of convenience. But because someone actually wanted me there. Rachel wanted me there. And that's worth more than any courtside seat.